Today I've been thinking about my mum and my dad. My dad particularly, here's a Trinidad flag on the back of the card that we used at his funeral, and on the front is a little picture of him. You see, my dad was from the West Indies and they met there in Trinidad. My mum was a white English school teacher, married my dad who was West Indian, and we came over as a family on one of the boats from the West Indies to England. Growing up, I quickly discovered, however, what racism was like and racial prejudice was like. My dad was often called all kinds of names. My sister too, who is of darker complexion than me, was often called all kinds of names. And so growing up, I understood a little bit about what racism was like. And so when we have weeks like this week with Black Lives Matter protests, in fact we have two this week in my hometown, I'm often asked then, what do I think of that? Am I going to go? Am I going to participate? Well, I agree, of course, with the sentiments of Black Lives Matter, and what's happened in Minneapolis to Mr. Floyd was, of course, terrible. It wasn't just Mr. Floyd, incidentally. There were 3 murders of defenseless, unarmed black people in a short space of time, which led to the riots in America. I won't be going to the Black Lives Matter protests in my hometown this week for 2 reasons. One is that I can't square that with the government advice of not being in large crowds, and also because the Bama community, the Black, Asian, Middle Eastern community, are most susceptible to the virus, and also because West Berkshire Community Connections are not supporting either protest for those 2 reasons. But in terms of the sentiment, of course, we are all made equal in the eyes of God, no matter what our economic status or the colour of our skin. And Jesus said, famously, love your neighbour. And so for us as Christians, that's the second greatest commandment. When he was asked, what are the 2 greatest commandments? He said, love God and love your neighbour, which includes everybody, those of different coloured complexions as well. So in these really, really challenging days of grappling with these big issues of racism and what does it mean, I'd encourage you also to look at my blog, because there you'll find something of what it feels like to be somebody of a different colour living in my hometown. But also let's remember Jesus' words and put them into practice. Let's truly love our neighbour.